All right, welcome everybody at home. We're Virtue. My name is Willem, and this is Marianna, and we'd like to take you through a journey through what Virtue does and how we will support the transition to sustainable cities in the future. So, when you think about cities of the future, people often think about the technological innovations that come along with it. We think about smart cities, about solar panels on roofs, heat pumps in houses, and these things are all important, but what people often forget is that there are still people that live in the city that need to do something with these sustainable innovations. And that's why before we'd like to get you to know about our house and what we do to support this transition, I'd like to ask you a question to keep in mind during our presentation. And that is, how much impact do you think as an individual you can have on the environment if you compare it to all these technological innovations? And to elaborate a bit more on this, I want to give you a quick example. So we all know that Dutch people, not Dutch people in per se, but Western societies are very fond of buying new stuff. Yearly we buy a lot of new clothes, sometimes a new iPhone or new headphones, stuff like that. And we all know that this has an impact on the environment. But do you know how much this impact actually is? So people always want to improve their energy use at home, waste less energy, insulate your walls, stuff like that. But when you actually compare the two, the buying new stuff in households contributes way more CO2 every year. And in fact, 40% of all CO2 emissions in households come from the stuff we buy. And the reason I'm introducing you to this is because what is a sustainable city if the inhabitants don't live sustainably in it? Before we continue on this, I would quickly like to give you an overview of what we're going to be talking about today. So first, I want to introduce you to who we are and what we do, and then I want to continue on the social scope that we take on sustainable cities, and then Marianna will continue to explain how our design and vision for the future relates to this, and we'll end with a quick interactive discussion. So who are we? Well, we're Virtue, and Virtue is a multidisciplinary student team from the TU Eindhoven, and that means we currently consist of 40 students that study a broad range of different disciplines, but we do share one passion, and that's the passion for the built environment, and specifically the sustainable challenges that we see in the built environment and that we want to tackle. And in order to raise awareness about these challenges, we want to come up with a solution that both realizes technological and social innovation in a house. And this house that I've been talking about is what we are going to design. And we're doing this for a competition, which is called the Solar Decathlon. The Solar Decathlon is the largest building competition in the world, and it challenges universities from all around the world to design, build, and operate a very efficient solar-powered house with innovative technologies in it. They have yearly editions all around the world, in every year in a different continent, and besides providing a platform for students to show off their innovations and what they've been working on, their main goal is to, first of all, stimulate research among universities and students in the built environment, but also to enhance interactions between educational institutes and the professional industry. And finally, which is also part of the reason why we're here, it challenges students to go out there and create awareness about how the built environment is important to create global sustainability. So the Solar Decathlon, so this is the main structure of the Solar Decathlon. The idea is fairly simple. You select an urban scenario alongside with a social scenario, and you design based on this an urban concept together with an energy concept for a complete urban scenario. From this design, which is going to be a building, you select what is called a demonstration unit. And this is a representative unit that is going to be around the size of an apartment. And this unit is going to be built on the competition site alongside where all the other teams will be building as well. And this is, of course, the the most interesting concept of this whole competition is that the students themselves get to not only design a building, but get to put it into practice and see how it comes to life and build it themselves. And we'll be staying on this campus for almost 1.5 months to build and see all the other teams build their houses to eventually be judged and scored on what we do. So this is not the first time we'll be participating in the Solar Decathlon. In fact, under the same name, but with different people, our team participated in the Solar Decathlon in 2018 in Dubai. And here you can see their housing demonstration unit that is being built on the solar campus in Dubai. And this is when it was finished. So the reason that this competition is called the Solar Decathlon is because it judges us on 10 different contests. And these contests range widely from the performance of the house and the sustainability, all the way to how well we communicate this and how well we raise these questions and create awareness for sustainability in the built environment. And this is also why we require a multidisciplinary team where experts in different areas are relevant. So for our competition, we're going to Wuppertal in Germany for the Solar Decathlon Europe 21. It was supposed to be in 2021, but it has been moved to 2022 due to the pandemic to give everyone a fairer chance to build their building in real life before going to the competition. So this competition in particular has 3 main differences to previous editions. First of all, it is the first completely urban context, which means that we're not only designing a building, but designing for a complete city. Second of all, it challenges students to look at the complete life cycle of a building. And this means that not only does the building has to perform well when it's in use, but looking all the way back to the material choice, it has to ensure resource efficiency and circularity. And finally, the main focus is not on creating a building for a greenfield site that use new land, but rather to look at what we currently have in a city and take this urban building stock and give it a new purpose, revitalize it. And that's why we've chosen for a renovation and a vertical extension on top of what is called Café Ada in Wuppertal. And Café Ada for us represents a place where people come together in gatherings. And this gathering, that is particularly important for our challenge. Because creating a built environment that is energy efficient is an amazing start. But it's very costly, and it definitely shouldn't end there. Because 70% of all greenhouse gas emissions in Europe are in fact related back to the household behavior and choices of people. And our mission is therefore not to create a built environment that activates people to live an environmentally friendly lifestyle. And we want to do this by providing an accessible and attractive platform where not only people initiate change or initiate new habits, but also where they spread it through social interaction. And in order to do this, this platform has to be adaptive to everyone's need, both in time and space. And what this means is that it should be future-proof and it should be able to be sustained over a long period of time, but also that it's adaptable to different cities and different scenarios so that it can be applied to different places. That's why we want to introduce our concept name, which is Ripple. Ripple is inspired by the ripple effect, and like the ripple effect, it aims to focus on an individual in Wuppertal to gradually induce new habits or environmentally aware lifestyle, and from this individual gradually change and have an impact on a larger scale, like a ripple. So Ripple is therefore not per se about creating a sustainable built environment, but rather by focusing on the people and their social interactions and the scaling up of their impact. This is the concept of Ripple, and Marianna will now take you through our design, how we're going to realize this.
Thank you. So now that Willem has introduced you what our context is and what our mission actually is, I'll guide you through our first step into making this Ripple start. But before I do that, I would like to go back to the effective habits that Willem has referred to with another question. That is a question that applies to all of us, and is what is having more impact in terms of CO2 between stop eating beef for a year and installing a solar boiler. We of course all know that installing a solar boiler is one of the main actions that we can take to bring our house to next level, but it's probably impressive to see that almost double the impact of CO2 is actually made by our habits of eating beef. So I want you to keep this in mind while I guide you through our design. And first of all, I want to introduce to you Jacob, which is a persona that we define as a resident of our building. This helps us understand how users experience the change of lifestyle that we want to bring into cities. So it all starts with a small a modular unit that is not the typical square unit that we have in mind for apartments, but is a so-called tessellation unit. And it's just big enough for a place to sleep for Jacob. And if we rotate this tessellation unit, we have another important space for Jacob, which is a kitchen and dining room. And during the day, when Jacob doesn't need to sleep, the space can be opened up through a sliding door, and the bed can be moved into a couch so that Jacob can have a bigger space to live in. And of course, he also needs a bathroom, but since this is the space where he spends the least time in, this bathroom is very small. And depending on his household situation, Jacob can decide to rent a bigger part for his apartment, and the adaptable walls can be removed and his living room can become bigger. Does it feel tiny? Probably does. However, we need to realize that now we're using a huge amount of space, and we're used to use a huge amount of space, but going towards urban densification, we need to get used to using space really efficiently. So that is our starting point. And now that you have the basics of Jacob's apartment, I want to ask another question. What do you think is the difference in impact, again, of insulating the floor of a house and instead installing an energy manager and especially using heating efficiently throughout the year? So even though, of course, we know that insulating the floor is probably one of the first steps to take in order to avoid heat loss and energy loss, you'll probably again be surprised to see that it is more effective to install an energy manager and use heating efficiently throughout the year. So again, a habit can have a bigger impact. But how is Jacob stimulated to introduce this change in his lifestyle from the sphere of his apartment? This is probably one of the most interesting aspects of our design. We design a set of smart systems that are all interconnected with each other and all refer to a central heart of the apartment, which is HOMI. HOMI, in fact, connects all the smart systems that usually are applied separately and allows Jacob to just refer to one easy user-friendly app, the HOMI app, and be definitely already taking a first step towards a resource-efficient lifestyle. So this is the first step for Jacob, and for example, he now can never forget his lights on, he can never shower for too long because the systems monitor him in a way which is not too strict or too annoying in a way and cynical, but just give him positive recommendation, as I will say in a minute, to live more sustainably. However, this is just an impression, a quite lively impression how he can live a comfortable lifestyle in his small apartment. However, he's never going to be very lonely and alone in his apartment because he's always living next to Rachel, his neighbor, and now becoming a friend almost. And Rachel lives in an apartment right next door, which however is a different layout thanks again to the versatility of this tessellation module, which is now rotated differently around the core. And here the most important thing of this block of apartments, a shared communal room which contains expensive appliances such as the oven and the washing machine and the dishwasher that Jacob and Rachel can share, as well as having dinner together or inviting friends over and having also a bit more space to live in. So this is the first step for them to interact. This space, all these spaces are quite flexible because they rotate around a fixed wet core that has all the wet appliances, as well as next to it all the electrical systems and the central element of the smart systems. The communal room especially contains a smart meter which allows Jacob and Rachel to keep track of their energy usage, and it makes them really understand how the building works, and they understand how they can work together with the building instead of against it. So here the second step, let's say, of the smart systems scheme, the so-called EHV, which is a smart system that we designed as a team and that visualizes the energy usage of the users. It also makes them understand which devices they need to turn on and when it's best to turn them on. And the best part of this is that they can visualize in a really nice and interactive way their energy usage, and they can see when they're doing well and when they're not. So finally, they, as I said before, they're not, they don't feel constantly obliged to live sustainably, but for them this change is almost natural and almost fun and effortless because like some systems that are existing today, the recommendation system that is connected to Homey is a positive recommendation system. So they can set goals every month at the beginning of the month, and throughout the month the recommendation system is going to tell them when they're doing good. For example, if they're showering for shorter than the time they set, or if they are not turning the lights on as much, or if they're doing less washings, etc. So this first small space, small communal space is the first step towards a community within the building. However, this block that I've been talking about can again rotate to create a bigger community which has a larger communal space where all these small communal spaces of the two apartments can flow into, creating, again, enhancing social interaction on a building scale. And as Willem mentioned before, these buildings are likely to be built as vertical extensions, in our case in top of a cultural cafe and a dancing school, but in other cities on top of other probably public buildings, and this enhances social interaction almost vertically with people that are visiting this building. But maybe the most interesting aspect and the most interesting platform that we're creating for social interaction is not even inside the building, but is on top of the building itself. The so-called roof gardens that are built on different terraces, and then don't only contribute to the energy production of the building and work as a passive cooling system for the building with the greenery, but they also allow residents to grow their own vegetables and fruits, and so make a first step towards a larger urban farming idea, and also, of course, to hang out and interact with each other. We've been talking a lot about habits, but of course we are aware that our building would be nowhere close to sustainable without energy systems that make it actually work sustainably. So in our case, we're focusing a lot on saving energy and not wasting energy. And in order to do this, we especially focus on having a combination of a solar boiler with a heat pump, so that the solar boiler can preheat the water, so that the heat pump doesn't need to use as much energy to heat it up for the appliances. And this, of course, all comes together on the building scale. So as all these things that I explained really help the community within the building from the sphere of their apartment in interaction with each other on a building scale to embrace a more environmentally friendly lifestyle. However, since our competition does not stop on a building level, also our concept report goes urban and does not stop in the building that we design. We've been trying to look at the urban situations where we personally are designing into, and we noticed that the site that we're looking at opens up onto a square that can be really turned greener, as we show in a playful representation here, and also into a more interactive and attractive space. And we can also bring elements of green and smart mobility into these squares. Especially our focus is also on to turning neighborhoods towards pedestrian oriented streets instead of car oriented streets. But of course, we cannot just change full cities into pedestrian cities without thinking of car removal. And our proposal for car removal, together with bringing the cars towards the edge of the city, such as like how Eindhoven is trying to do in their master plan for bringing the cars at the ring. We also want to introduce mobility hubs that are multifunctional hubs for electric green vehicles to be stored at and picked up from people, but also gathering places for people and interact and indeed work out some heart and really have a place to stay, not just a place to get their vehicle at. And of course, these mobility hubs, in order to work properly, need to be spread all around the city. And this is the case of the neighborhood we were working at. And these hubs can be larger or smaller depending on how busy the place gets, and they need to be at a walkable distance for users to reach them. But in our opinion, a city doesn't turn green only by turning their mobility green. Also, we're trying to introduce lots of activities in the cities for, indeed, for this ripple to ripple, for the social interaction to enhance and allow the environmental lifestyle to become a trend on a city level. So, for example, we're focusing on urban furniture, and we've been designing a wall, a tessellated wall with blocks that users can themselves in the city pick up and form their own gathering place outside. So it also engages them to think of actually interacting and playing with it. As well as we're trying to bring more liveliness to the squares and bringing the spotlight on existing initiatives in the city that maybe have sustainable focus, for example. And we've been designing these modules, the mountable initiative modules, we call them, that can have all kinds of different purposes, from bike sharing as it is an image, or small cultural hubs, or aquaponics, any kind of initiative that there can be in the city. And as I said, our energy concept also goes urban, because we're especially trying to focus on harvesting heat from different parts of the cities and reusing it. So for us, the key is sharing in order to optimize on a city level. So now you've seen our proposal for sustainable cities. But before we go towards a conclusion, I would like to make you think again at the last question. We, of course, are all fans, me and Willem and our whole team are fans of installing solar panels and solar energy production, because that's probably one of the basics of our competition. However, now that we've been talking about mobility, do you think that taking the train instead of the car to work on a daily basis, for example, from Utrecht to Amsterdam, has more or less impact than installing solar panels and therefore the solar panels energy production? Well, you can see that installing solar panels also requires a lot of embodied energy, even though a lot of people don't actually know it. And having the habit of taking the train instead of the car is almost 3 times better than installing the solar panels. So this means, all these examples that we've been bringing mean that even if you take one small step, it already has a huge impact. So habits really have a huge impact. We don't know, we don't think of it, but we may start thinking of it. And we also may start thinking of the fact that they're completely free. It's completely free to do, and we might even save some money from it. So that's why we really focus on people and how people can be activated to live more environmentally friendly by providing them an attractive and accessible platform which is adaptive to everybody's needs over time and space. Because in this way, we believe that our ripple can reach other locations in the world and spread and become bigger and bigger over time. So there will be so much more to tell you about what we do, but for now, thank you for your attention. So, one second. So now it's your turn, and we would like to make you think a little bit before we go into a Q&A on how sustainably do you think you live, and
You can join if you go to menti.com and type in the code 8096747. We would like to hear how environmentally friendly do you think you are. So if you log in, you will see this question first, and you can give yourself a score from 1 to 10. What do you think, how sustainable do you live? And we're really curious to know how you grade yourselves. We'll wait a few minutes before we have some answers. And don't be too harsh on yourself.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, of course. Okay.
Very average.
Quite average, yeah. What is average, actually? That we're gonna see. We're gonna see in a minute.
It's sufficient.
Yeah. For TUE, this is 5.5. You pass. So let's wait a bit longer, because then we'll go a bit more specific in asking what does this mean for you.
All right, well, people still think of this. We would like to go to a next set of questions real quick. So actually, if you've been so harsh on yourself, you've given yourself like around a 5, 5.5, let's see what of these habits you actually already do and how often you do. So you can rate each of these habits, whether you do them always or never. And all the way right is never, and all the way left is always.
Always.
They're supposed to be the other way around, but I see they're turned around now. So we can just assume that right is always, because that's easier, and we can get a score.
No, but now you confuse people.
Go right for always.
So that's always, and this is never, contrary to what's written on the screen. So these habits include indeed eating vegetarian, or use reusable grocery bags, so not just the plastic bags that are always given. Take the public transport, as we also mentioned earlier. Buy second-hand clothes, which also, as Willem mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, can have quite a big impact. Use a reusable water bottle, which I think I have to say in the Netherlands is really international, and in the Netherlands is a really well done habit. Buy seasonal or in season products. And finally, showering no more than 5 minutes, especially winter, when it's really nice to hang in a shower.
How would you score yourself?
For that?
Yeah,
for all of those?
For all of them.
Okay. Eat vegetarian. I'm not vegetarian, but I would say
3.
3. What is a 3 of this? More closer to always than never.
Yeah.
Use reusable grocery bags. Well, very good, because I never get the plastic bags. Take public transport.
Or bike.
I bike,
Yeah,
so very good. Always, I would say, always public transport. Bike second-hand, I'm very bad at that. I'm a bad consumer, so almost never. Reusable water bottle, yes, every day, always. Local or in-season products, I would like to do it more, but I'm a student, and supermarkets
The cheapest
don't
is always better.
yeah, and supermarkets don't allow it.
Products in season are actually always cheaper, so it's a good thing to look at.
Let's look to.
All right, we want to go to the final question before we end our presentation. And that is a very open question. Do you know on what things you can improve on? So Marianna already said she wanted to improve on eating vegetarian and buying local and in season. But be critical on yourself. What would you like to see yourself improve on, and what do you know you can improve on, actually?
You can give more questions, more answers, or only one?
You can leave more answers if you want.
Yeah. What would you improve on?
Probably showering.
Showering?
Yeah, I shower way. I like showering too much, so I shower way too long.
Yeah, good one. Yeah, that's a hard one as well. But you know, for me sometimes it's good because I'm always late. So if I gotta shower quickly, then
Well, that's a good thing.
yeah. Plastic packaging. That's. I think in supermarkets very hard to choose sometimes because everything is already pre-packed. There are shops, for example. Yeah, showering. Holiday is very sustainable. True. That's probably where I'm the least sustainable. Also, for me,
from Italy.
Yeah, for me to travel back home as well means taking the flight is way easier and cheaper, unfortunately, than anything else. So that's bad for me. So we had a couple more answers and then we'll end.
All right, people can still leave their answers.
We'll see them.
We'll see them if you still leave them, because we will get the answers, and we're very curious to know. It's all anonymous, of course, but we would like to see what you can improve on.
Yeah.
And yes.
You can move on. So.
So again, thank you for your attention. If you'd like to get more involved in and be inspired by all these habits that we've been talking about, follow us on Instagram. We have a segment called For Tuesday, on which we post regularly facts about all kinds of habits and what you can do to improve. So yeah.
And we also have positive news sometimes, but especially probably one of the most exciting things to mention as an ending is that we are going to actually build and test our building for the first time in June 2021 in the TU campus in Eindhoven. So you can pass by and see it, especially in October when we'll have the big opening. And in order to look forward to this, you can follow us on all social media and keep track of our progress. And finally, of course, we always would like to thank our partners, because without their help we would never actually get to make this house real. So thank you for your attention,
even if it's not live. But
and also see you, and we're really excited to hear your questions in the Q&A now.
Hey, you're still here, so you like the video. If you want, subscribe and click the bell.